Here are the top stories for today, July 28, 2020. The government's Build program is seen to boost the economy amid the pandemic. President Duterte stressed the importance of the Plant program to provide affordable food for every Filipino. President Duterte has warned online scammers that the government will go after them as it intensifies consumer protection. And a member of Cebu Provincial Board prefers full-faced helmet for back riders instead of a barrier. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. The government's Build program is seen to boost the economy of the country amid the pandemic. In his fifth State of the Nation address, President Duterte said the infrastructure projects under the Build program are not mere springboards for the country's swift recovery, but will also provide economic benefits to all corners of the country. Infrastructure projects such as roads, bridges, airports, and railways, among others, have already started since 2017. It has a total budget of 8 trillion pesos under the Build program.
Our economic managers have seen infrastructure investment as an effective tool to help spur high growth, attract investments, create jobs, and achieve financial inclusion for all Filipinos. We will release a comprehensive written report of our collective milestones and the details of accomplishments that remind us that perseverance, patience, determination will help us move forward even in the most difficult times.
The leadership of the House of Representatives on Monday committed to pass the legislative priorities outlined by President Duterte in his fifth State of the Nation address, or SONA. Majority Leader Martin Romualdez described the president's mission as a threefold strategy aimed at helping the country and its people recover from the effects of the pandemic. Romualdez said the strategy includes protecting the Filipino nation from hunger and poverty, saving precious human lives from the viral disease, and ramping up budgetary measures needed to fully implement a responsive and sustainable recovery plan. In delivering his fifth SONA, Duterte asked Congress to pass the Bayanihan to Recover as One, or Bayanihan 2, which contains a stimulus package to revive the country's economy. Duterte also stressed the need to fast-track the passage of the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises Act Bill and the Financial Institutions Strategic Transfer Bill to help the country recover from the economic downturn. House Ways and Means Chair Joey Salceda assured that both the Create Bill and the second stimulus package under the Bayanihan 2 will be enacted as soon as possible. President Duterte warned opportunists amid the government's response to the coronavirus disease 2019 pandemic. During his fifth and penultimate State of the Nation address, Duterte acknowledged that the implementation of the Social Amelioration Program, or SAP, is not perfect. Under the SAP, the national government distributes temporary cash assistance ranging from 5,000 to 800,000 pesos to low-income families. Some 18 million poor households have received the first tranche, but only 12 million of the 18 million existing beneficiaries will benefit from the implementation of the second phase. They will be joined by 5 million waitlisted beneficiaries. The Department of Social Welfare and Development is eyeing the completion of the disbursement of the second wave of financial aid to indigent families by the end of July.
Admittedly, our implementation of the Social Amelioration Program was not perfect, and some opportunists turned crisis into opportunity. We will catch up with you sooner than you think. There are complaints that some drivers did not receive any assistance at all. I have directed the SWD and DILG to look into this. All of us in government, including myself, assure you that we will not stop until we get things right and better for you.
President Duterte said the postponement of the Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections has saved much-needed funds for the government. He adds that the measure also saved the country from holding the polls while we dealt and continue to deal with the pandemic. Under the newly signed Republic Act 11462, the conduct of the next village and youth elections has been reset to December 5, 2022.
I welcome the passage of the law postponing the Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections. The postponement saved much-needed government funds and ensured the implementation of projects under the current barangay officials.
President Duterte expressed optimism that the passage of the salary standardization law would encourage young and brilliant Filipinos to join the government. Under RA 11466, the salary adjustment will be implemented in 4 tranches from 2020 to 2023. The biggest increases, ranging from 20% to 30%, would apply to government workers under the salary grades 10 to 15 bracket. Government employees with salary grades 1 to 10 would get a 17.5% to 20.5% raise over the 4 years. Those who are under salary grades 25 to 33 would have the lowest increase of a mere 8%. About 1.4 million government workers, including public school teachers and nurses, are the beneficiaries of the law.
Salary in the standardization law of 2019 increases the salaries of civilian government workers. I hope that this law will inspire our government workers to perform better and encourage young, brilliant citizens to join public service.
Still to come, President Duterte stressed the importance of the Plant program to provide affordable food for every Filipino. The government will go after online scammers as it intensifies consumer protection. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito. Alamin kung paano ang tamang pagsusuot ng surgical mask. Una, hawakan ang mask sa strap at siguruhing natatakpan nito ang inyong bibig at ilong. Tandaan, ang may kulay na bahagi ng mask ang dapat nasa labas. Ito lamang ang tamang paraan ng pagsuot nito. Ihulma ang nose piece o maliit na metallic strip ayon sa hugis ng inyong ilong. Iwasan ang paghawak sa inyong ilong at bibig. Kung marumi na ang mask, hubarin ito gamit ang strap at itapon ito sa isang basurahan. Siguruhin ang maayos na paghuhugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ang surgical mask ay dapat gamitin ng mga pasyenteng may sakit sa baga o mga taong mayroong ubo, sipon at lagnat, mga nag-aalaga sa mga may sakit, at mga healthcare at frontline workers. Maaari ring magsuot nito kung kayo ay pupunta sa matataong lugar. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. President Duterte stressed the importance of the Plant program of the Department of Agriculture as it aims to provide adequate, accessible, and affordable food for every Filipino. Duterte said a 66 billion peso agricultural stimulus package will help the agricultural and fisheries sector recover from the blow of the COVID-19 pandemic. The stimulus package would include 15 billion pesos for the Cash for Work program for agri-fishery workers, 20 billion pesos for the food logistics or food markets, and 31 billion pesos for the Plant program. Duterte is also requesting the Congress to pass the Rural Agriculture and Fisheries Development Financing System, as well as a version of the bill establishing the Coconut Farmers Trust Fund. Quezon Representative Mark Enverga commended President Rodrigo Duterte for the inclusion of agricultural development on his development and governance agenda. Enverga, who is the chair of the House Committee on Agriculture and Food, said he was elated to hear about the 66 billion pesos agriculture stimulus package, which outlines the various interventions of the government on the Philippine agriculture and fisheries sector. He says the president deserves to be recognized for his push for the Plant program and the passage of the Coconut Farmers Trust Fund bill. Enverga assures that all of the thoughts and guidance of the president will be reflected in the House bill for the welfare of the coconut farmers. Filipinos in the provinces expressed gratitude and hope as President Duterte laid down his plans and strategies to resolve COVID-19 and other issues in the country during his State of the Nation address. Benj Bondoc has the story.
Albayanos have expressed hope of a more strategic and comprehensive plan to combat COVID-19 after hearing President Rodrigo Duterte's pronouncements on the pandemic in his 5th State of the Nation address. Irene Solmirano, president of women's organization Infra, expressed high hopes for an end to the contagion. President Duterte said the Philippines is aiming to conduct 1.4 million tests for COVID-19 by the end of July. Doy Joquino, a radio commentator and announcer, expressed belief that the government is working hard in putting an end to the coronavirus crisis and is hopeful that more will be done after the president's SONA. Residents of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao and Cotabateños also expressed support for President Duterte's message of hope and resilience amid the continuing pandemic. The majority of officials and residents gave the president an 8 out of 10 rating in his 5th State of the Nation address. BARMM officials particularly expressed their gratitude to Duterte for the passage of the Bangsamoro Organic Law. Residents also backed the president in all his initiatives to counter the spread of COVID-19. Officials in General Santos City and in nearby South Cotabato expressed satisfaction over the national government's direction in addressing the pandemic as cited in President Duterte's SONA. City Mayor Ronel Rivera said the government is on point with its assertive strategies in containing the spread of the disease while ensuring that economic activities, especially in the countryside, are sustained. Rivera said local government units like the city were so far properly empowered with their responses to the problem as guided by the National Interagency Task Force and its implementing body. Meanwhile, South Cotabato 1st District Representative Charlene Banyas Nograles gave an excellent rating to the President's SONA, especially with the government's response initiatives against COVID-19. Meanwhile, officials in Eastern Visayas praised President Rodrigo Duterte's imposed deadline to telecommunication companies Smart and Globe to improve their services by December. For Ramil Uy, president of the Association of Government Information Officers in Eastern Visayas, the president's call to telcos is very timely as more people need the internet during this health crisis. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Benj Bondoc.
President Duterte urges the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and the banks to extend financial relief to micro, small, and medium enterprises to help them cope with the pandemic. In his SONA yesterday, Duterte urged both the central bank and financial institutions to extend loan accommodation for MSMEs without imposing additional fees or changes. He also appeals to the landlords to help small businesses bounce back from the pandemic.
Ito ang panahon para suportahan natin ang ating mga kababayan na nagnegosyo at gumawa ng mga produktong sariling atin. Nananawagan po ako sa ating mga lessors. Nananawagan po ako sa ating mga lessors. Malasakit at bayanihan po ang sana ang pairalin natin ngayon. This is not the time to drive away leases. Come up with an amenable arrangement with your tenants. Huwag po natin silang pagtabuyan, tanggalin ang tubig, kuryente at bubong.
President Duterte has warned online scammers that the government will go after them as it intensifies consumer protection. This as online transactions surged since community quarantine measures were implemented in March. In his State of the Nation address, President Duterte underscored the need to strengthen the country's cyberspace and enforce online consumer protection and privacy laws. President Duterte also directed the Department of Trade and Industry to coordinate strategies to ensure empowerment of Filipinos on consumer rights to build a fair, safe, resilient, and sustainable economy. According to DTI, the Consumer Protection Group received 10,323 complaints regarding online transactions alone in the first half of 2020. The number surged from 512 online-related complaints received for the full year of 2016 and also exceeded 2,400 complaints filed with the DTI in 2019. Up next, President Duterte has pursued diplomatic means rather than warfare to assert the Philippines' rights in the West Philippine Sea. And a member of the Cebu Provincial Board prefers a full-faced helmet for backriders instead of a barrier. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Tandaan ang tamang paraan ng paghuhugas at paglilinis ng kamay upang makaiwas sa iba't ibang karamdaman. Basain ng tubig ang mga kamay at sabunin. Unang sabunin ang mga palad at ang likod ng mga kamay. Kuskusin na maigi ang pagitan ng mga daliri at maging ang mga kuko. Isunod ang pagitan ng mga hinlalaki at kuskusin ng paikot ang mga dulo ng mga daliri sa magkabilang palad. Banlawang mabuti ang mga kamay sa malinis na tubig at patuyuin ang mga kamay gamit ang single-use towel o air dryer. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito. Sa matinding laban natin sa Coronavirus Disease 2019, sugpuin din natin ang pagkalat ng fake news. Huwag magbahagi ng impormasyon na hindi tiyak ang pinagmulan. I-check mabuti ang source ng balita. Kumuha lamang ng impormasyon mula sa mga official channel ng Department of Health. Huwag magpadala sa maling balita, basta't sama-sama at laging handa. Kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
President Rodrigo Duterte is urging the public not to lose hope amid COVID-19, stressing that a vaccine may soon be within reach. In his fifth State of the Nation address, Duterte said he appealed to Chinese President Xi Jinping to let the Philippines be among the first to avail of a potential COVID-19 vaccine. Earlier, the president said China, among other countries, is developing a vaccine that could be available as early as September. At the same time, the president gave credit to all workers on the front line against COVID-19. He said that there are now 93 accredited testing laboratories nationwide and that government intends to conduct 1.4 million tests by the end of July. He also thanked members of the Interagency Task Force, the National Task Force Against COVID-19, and local government units for keeping the pandemic in check. Duterte said the government is also aiming to increase the people's access to healthcare services by deploying over 20,000 health professionals by 2021. President Duterte has pursued diplomatic means rather than warfare to assert the Philippines' rights in the West Philippine Sea. Duterte assured that the government works without fail in protecting Manila's rights in the region through diplomatic means that are neither beholden nor a pawn to anyone. He said the government builds productive ties on the basis of equality and mutual respect, placing it in a better position to advance its interests. On the other hand, he rejected plans to re-establish Washington's military base in Subic Bay, noting the risk it would put Manila in should a nuclear war break out. He said Manila cannot afford to go to war against Beijing to forcefully retake the Philippine territory it occupied in the South China Sea. Tensions had been escalating between China and the United States since the latter released its new policy in the South China Sea, deploring Beijing's sweeping claims in the region. A member of the Cebu Provincial Board suggested strict enforcement of the mandatory wearing of a full-faced helmet to back riders in lieu of the installed barrier. 6th District Representative Glenn Anthony Soco issued a resolution suggesting that a structured barrier is unnecessary as protection for a rider from COVID-19. Instead, the more sensible way is for the pillion rider to wear a full-faced, front-covered helmet with overalls or jackets and gloves. He cited the opinions of engineers and experts that barriers violate the principles of aerodynamics and maneuverability for motorcycle riders. He also noted that most riders who cannot afford to comply with the prototypes will then have to improvise and use substandard and cheaper alternatives. Considering that only couples are allowed to ride together on motorcycles, physical distancing must also be reconsidered since these individuals are principally sharing bed and board. In our foreign news, the World Health Organization reports that global cases of COVID-19 had doubled over the past 6 weeks. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said Monday that he will reconvene the emergency committee on Thursday to re-evaluate the COVID-19 pandemic. Tedros told a virtual press conference that almost 16 million cases have now been reported to WHO, with more than 640,000 deaths worldwide. He said that although the world has changed, the basic measures needed to suppress transmission and save lives have not, particularly protocols to find, isolate, test, and care for cases and trace and quarantine their contacts. Tedros said countries and communities that have followed this advice carefully and consistently have done well either in preventing large-scale outbreaks or in bringing large outbreaks under control. President Rodrigo Duterte, through his State of the Nation address, recognized the importance of the establishment of the National Academy of Sports in the development of sports in the country. Duterte signed Republic Act 11470, or the act establishing the NAS in his hometown in Davao City last June 9. The NAS, set to be built inside the new Clark City Sports Complex in Capas, will cater to chosen students, athletes who receive quality education and state-of-the-art sports training. Under the new law, the NAS is tasked to implement a secondary education program with a special curriculum on sports to help young athletes develop further their skills. RA 11470 also grants full scholarship to qualified student athletes. During his penultimate SONA, Duterte also took the opportunity to thank the legislators as well as the executive department, particularly the Philippine Sports Commission or PSC, for the successful hosting of the 2019 Southeast Asian Games. As part of efforts to help the country recover from the effects of COVID-19, President Duterte on Monday urged the public to help boost the country's economy by traveling locally when protocols are already in place. In his State of the Nation address, the president noted that the tourism and recreation industries, which are among the hardest hit by the pandemic, count on everyone's support. Duterte also called on both national government agencies and local government units to harmonize policies on domestic tourism to ensure that travelers are safe amid the pandemic. After the pandemic crippled the industry with a succession of border closures and airline groundings, the Department of Tourism tourism had since placed its hope on domestic travel to revive the sector as foreign markets remain in their respective countries. At present, tourism operations are only allowed at half capacity in areas under modified general community quarantine, subject to the LGU's approval. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. The government's Build, Build, Build program is seen to boost the economy amid the pandemic. President Duterte stressed the importance of the Plant program to provide affordable food for every Filipino. President Duterte has warned online scammers that the government will go after them as it intensifies consumer protection. And a member of Cebu Provincial Board prefers full-faced helmet for back riders instead of a barrier. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check out more news content, visit our webpage or head on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo. Good day and stay safe, everyone.